On a Friday evening in February, in the small town of Millbrook, Pennsylvania, a 32-year-old single mother named Shanice Williams walked into the police station with $18 in her pocket and terror in her heart. To the officers behind their desks, to the dispatcher filing her nails, to the sergeant who barely glanced up from his computer, Shanice was just another problem. Another poor black woman with another complaint that would take up their time. But in less than 90 minutes, one phone call would expose a truth so devastating that it would bring an entire police department to its knees. And it would all come down to $18. Every cent Shanice had left in the world, and the choice she made with it. This is a story about what happens when the people sworn to protect us become the ones we need protection from. And it starts with the missing child. Shanice Williams hadn't planned to be a single mother of 2 by 32. She'd married her high school sweetheart Marcus when she was 23. They had 2 beautiful children, Isaiah, now 8 years old, and Kenya, 6. Marcus had worked construction while Shanice put herself through nursing school, taking night classes and weekend shifts, building toward a future where their kids wouldn't have to struggle the way they had. Then came the diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Marcus was gone within 7 months, leaving Shanice with 2 grieving children, a mountain of medical debt, and a hole in her heart that would never fully heal. That had been 3 years ago. Shanice had done what she had to do. She'd finished her nursing certification and gotten a job as a CNA at Millbrook County Hospital. The pay was $16.50 an hour, not enough to cover rent, utilities, childcare, and the minimum payments on Marcus's medical bills, but it was something. She worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., because it paid an extra $1 per hour, and because her neighbor, Mrs. Neighbor Chen, an elderly widow who'd lost her own husband, would watch the kids while Shanice worked. "You take care of sick people all night," Mrs. Chen would say in her accented English. "I take care of your babies. We help each other. That's what neighbors do." Shanice would come home at 7:03 a.m., sleep for 3 hours, wake up to get the kids from school, help with homework, make dinner, put them to bed, and do it all over again, 5 days a week. Sometimes 6 when overtime was available. She never complained. Complaining was a luxury she couldn't afford. But on the morning of February 14th, Valentine's Day, though Shanice barely registered it, something happened that would change everything. Shanice arrived at Millbrook Elementary at 3:15 p.m. to pick up Isaiah and Kenya from their after-school program. Kenya came running out immediately, backpack bouncing, clutching a homemade Valentine's card. "Mommy, look what I made you." Shanice knelt down, hugging her daughter, feeling the familiar ache of gratitude and exhaustion. "It's beautiful, baby. Where's your brother?" Kenya's smile faded. "I don't know. He wasn't in after school today." Shanice's stomach tightened. She walked quickly to the coordinator's desk. "Excuse me, where's Isaiah Williams?" The coordinator, a young woman barely out of college, checked her clipboard with the casual efficiency of someone for whom this was routine. Isaiah Williams, he was checked out at 2004 p.m. The world tilted. Checked out by who? "I didn't check him out." The coordinator flipped through a sign-out sheet. "Says here, Father, Marcus Williams." Shanice's blood turned to ice. "That's impossible," she whispered. "My husband has been dead for 3 years." Shanice burst through the doors of the Millbrook Police Department at 4:23 p.m. Kenya clutching her hand, both of them breathless from running the 3 blocks from the school. "Please," Shanice said to the officer at the front desk, her voice shaking. "Someone took my son. Someone signed him out of school using my dead husband's name. Please, I need help." The desk officer, a heavy-set white man in his 50s named Sergeant Dale Cunningham, looked up from his computer with the expression of someone profoundly annoyed at being interrupted. "Slow down," he said, not moving from his chair. "What's your name?" "Shanice Williams. My son Isaiah, he's 8 years old. Someone took him from Millbrook Elementary." "How do you know someone took him?" "Could be his father picked him up." "His father is dead." "Has been for 3 years. Someone forged the signature." "Ma'am." Cunningham held up a hand. "Do you have a custody dispute? Boyfriend? Baby daddy situation?" Shanice felt something crack inside her chest. "I just told you my husband is deceased. This is a stranger who took my child. Or maybe it's a family member, grandparent, uncle. These custody things get complicated." "I'm telling you," Shanice said, her voice rising despite her effort to stay calm. "No one in my family would take Isaiah without telling me. Someone used my dead husband's name. That's identity theft. That's kidnapping. Please, you have to help me find him." Cunningham sighed, the kind of sigh that communicated he'd heard it all before and none of it impressed him. "I'm going to need you to fill out a missing persons report. But I gotta tell you, ma'am, 99 times out of 100, these situations resolve themselves. Kid goes home with a friend, mom forgot she gave permission, or it's a non-custodial parent thinking they've got rights they don't have." "Someone forged a dead man's signature," Shanice said, her voice breaking. "Please." Cunningham slid a clipboard across the counter. "Fill this out. We'll get to it." Shanice took the clipboard with shaking hands and sat down in the waiting area. Kenya curled against her, sensing her mother's fear. As Shanice began writing, she heard Cunningham talking to another officer who'd emerged from the back. "Another one," Cunningham muttered, just loud enough to be heard. "Probably baby daddy drama. They always make it sound like a federal case." The other officer, a younger man named Officer Brian Kemp, glanced at Shanice and smirked. They ever just handle their own business? Shanice's hand stopped moving. She looked up, meeting their eyes. They didn't look away. They weren't ashamed. They were annoyed. That's when Shanice understood. They weren't going to help her. 42 minutes passed. Shanice had filled out every line of the report, provided Isaiah's description, his photo from her phone, the school's contact information, everything they'd asked for. No one had moved. She walked back to the counter. "Excuse me, I finished the report. What happens now?" Cunningham looked at the paperwork without picking it up. "We'll file it. Detective will review it Monday morning." "Monday?" Shanice's voice cracked. "It's Friday evening. My son has been missing for over 2 hours. Every minute that passes. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but we follow procedure. Missing person reports get reviewed by the detective division. They come in Monday at 8 a.m. You're telling me no one is going to look for my son for 3 days? I'm telling you that we have protocols." And frankly, Cunningham leaned back in his chair like I said, "These situations usually resolve on their own. Kids probably at a friend's house right now playing video games." Shanice felt tears burning her eyes. She blinked them back. What if he's not? What if someone dangerous has him? What if? "Mom, you're catastrophizing. I've been doing this job for 26 years. I know the difference between a genuine emergency and a..." He paused, choosing his words, "a misunderstanding." Shanice opened her wallet. Inside was $18. 3 5s and 3 1s. It was supposed to buy groceries for the weekend: eggs, bread, peanut butter, milk. It was every cent she had until her paycheck deposited Monday night. She placed the money on the counter. "Please," she said quietly, "I know you think I'm overreacting. I know you see people like me come in here every day with problems you're tired of hearing about. But my son is everything to me. If you won't help me because it's your job, then I'm asking you as a mother, please help me find my boy. Sergeant Cunningham looked at the $18. Then he looked at Officer Kemp. And then he did something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He laughed, not a chuckle, not a polite dismissal, a full, mocking laugh. "Mom," he said, sliding the money back toward her, "you think you can bribe a police officer with $18? That's not how this works. And honestly, the fact that you'd even try tells me a lot about the situation here." Officer Kemp joined in. "Maybe save that money for a lawyer. You might need one if you keep making false reports." Shanice stood there, frozen, as the two officers laughed at her desperation. "I wasn't trying to bribe you," Shanice said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was trying to show you that I'm willing to give everything I have. That I'm serious. That my son's life is worth everything to me, including the food in my children's mouths this weekend." Cunningham's smile faded, replaced by something colder. "Well, that's real touching. But poverty isn't a police emergency. Come back Monday if the kid's still gone." "If he's still gone?" Shanice felt something inside her break and then immediately forge into something harder. "You're supposed to protect people. That's your job. To protect and serve. And you're sitting here eating Chinese food while my 8-year-old son is out there with someone who forged a dead man's signature to steal him." "Mom, I'm going to need you to lower your voice." "Why? Because you don't want your colleagues to hear how you're treating me? Because you don't want anyone to know that you're refusing to help a mother whose child is missing?" Cunningham stood up. He was 6'2" and used his height deliberately. "I'm gonna ask you one more time to lower your voice and leave this building. You filed your report. We'll handle it according to procedure. If you continue to create a disturbance, I'll charge you with disorderly conduct." Shanice picked up Kenya, who was crying now, frightened by the raised voices. "My son's name is Isaiah Williams," Shanice said, her voice shaking but clear. "He's 8 years old. He loves dinosaurs and basketball. He wants to be a veterinarian. He's been gone for 3 hours. And you're threatening to arrest me for asking you to care." She turned toward the door. "Have a good evening, ma'am," Cunningham called after her, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Shanice stopped at the door. She turned back, and for just a moment, she locked eyes with Cunningham. "You're going to regret this," she said quietly. "Is that the threat?" Kemp stepped forward. "No," Shanice said, "it's a prediction." She had no idea how right she was. What Sergeant Dale Cunningham didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Shanice Williams wasn't just a poor single mother. She wasn't just a CNA working night shifts to feed her kids. She was someone who understood exactly what to do when the system meant to protect you becomes the system you need protection from. And the phone call she was about to make would change everything. Shanice sat in her car in the police station parking lot, Kenya asleep in the back seat, wrapped in Shanice's coat. The heater didn't work, hadn't for 6 months, and the temperature was dropping into the 20s. She had $18, no help from the police, and her son had been missing for 3 hours and 40 minutes. Most people would have given up, would have gone home to wait, would have trusted that the system, however broken, would eventually work. Shanice pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. She scrolled past Mom, past Mrs. Tower, Chen, past hospital scheduling, until she found a name she hadn't called in almost a year, Colonel Briggs. But Shanice Williams wasn't most people. Before Marcus got sick, before the kids, before the night shifts and the medical debt, Shanice had served 4 years in the United States Army as a combat medic. She'd done 2 tours One in Iraq, one in Afghanistan, treating wounded soldiers under fire, making life or death decisions in seconds, learning to function when everything around her was chaos. She'd been good at it, good enough that her commanding officer, Colonel Patricia Briggs, had tried to convince her to re-enlist, to make the army her career. "You've got instincts, Williams," Colonel Briggs had told her during her exit interview. "You see what others miss. You stay calm when everyone else panics. That's rare. That's valuable. I appreciate that, ma'am," Shanice had said. "But my husband and I want to start a family. I want to be present for that, not deployed." Colonel Briggs had nodded, understanding. But she'd given Shanice her personal number. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Day or night. Soldiers take care of soldiers. That doesn't end when you take off the uniform." Shanice had kept that number for 7 years. She'd never used it. Until now. Shanice's finger hovered over the contact. It was 5:47 p.m. on a Friday. Colonel Briggs, if she even still had the same number, might be unreachable, might not remember her, might not be in a position to help. But Shanice had learned something in the army that the police officers inside that building had never understood. The most dangerous person in the world isn't the one with the most weapons. It's the one with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. She pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice, Colonel Briggs. "Ma'am, this is Shanice Williams. I served under you in the 47th Combat Support Hospital 2012 to 2016. I apologize for calling out of the blue, but I need help. My 8-year-old son has been kidnapped, and the local police are refusing to investigate." There was a pause. Then, "Williams, I remember you. Steady hands, never panicked. Where are you?" "Millbrook, Pennsylvania." "I'm in D.C. Give me the details, all of them, fast." Shanice told her everything. The school sign out, Marcus's forged signature, the police department's dismissal, the $18, the mockery. Colonel Briggs was silent for 10 seconds after Shanice finished. When she spoke, her voice was cold and precise. "Shanice, I need you to listen carefully. I'm going to make some calls. But while I do that, you're going to do something for me. You're going to go back into that police station and you're going to tell them that you're filing a formal complaint. Not about your son, about their conduct. Make it official. Make them write it down. Can you do that?" "Yes, Mom." "Good. Do it now. I'll call you back in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Shanice walked back into the police station at 5:05 to 5:02 p.m. Sergeant Cunningham looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "I thought we were done here," he said. "I'm filing a formal complaint," Shanice said clearly, "against you and Officer Kemp for refusing to investigate a missing child case and for mocking me when I asked for help." Cunningham's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, you're wasting everyone's time. I want to file a formal complaint. That's my right as a citizen. You're required to provide me with the complaint form and to document this request. If you refuse, I'll note that in my report to the state police and the FBI." The mention of the FBI made Cunningham pause, just for a second. But Shanice noticed. Officer Kemp stepped forward. "Lady, you're really pushing your luck here. I'm exercising my rights." Shanice's voice was steady. "Do I need to request a supervisor?" Cunningham grabbed a form from a drawer and slammed it on the counter. "Fill this out. But I'm telling you right now, you're making a mistake. We don't forget people who cause problems." "Neither do I," Shanice said quietly. As Shanice filled out the complaint form with meticulous detail, times, exact quotes, descriptions of the officer's conduct, something shifted in the room. The dispatcher, a black woman in her 50s named Rhonda, who'd been studiously ignoring everything until now, stood up and walked over to Cunningham's desk. "Dale, Rhonda said quietly. Maybe we should have someone check with the school, just to confirm the pickup situation. We'll handle it Monday, Cunningham snapped. It's a missing 8-year-old, Rhonda pressed. Protocol says we're supposed to. I said, we'll handle it Monday. Cunningham's voice rose. Unless you want to do my job for me, Rhonda? Rhonda looked at Shanice. Their eyes met. And in that moment, Shanice saw something she hadn't seen from anyone in that building: solidarity. Rhonda knew something was wrong. Shanice finished the complaint form and slid it across the counter. I'm also requesting that you contact the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. According to federal guidelines, any child abduction should be reported to federal authorities immediately. My son has been missing for 4 hours. Cunningham's face reddened. You don't get to tell us how to do our jobs. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm telling you what federal law requires. If you choose not to follow it, that's your decision. But it will be documented. Shanice's phone rang at 6:03 p.m. Colonel Briggs. Shanice, I've made some calls. First, I contacted an old friend who's now a special agent with the FBI's Philadelphia field office. She's activating the Child Abduction Response Team. They'll be in Millbrook within 2 hours. Shanice felt her knees weaken with relief. Thank you. I'm not done. I also called the Pennsylvania State Police Superintendent. He's sending a team to take over the investigation immediately. And I called someone else, someone I think you should know about. Who? The Millbrook Chief of Police, Robert Morrison. Turns out he and I served together 20 years ago. He's currently at a conference in Harrisburg. He had no idea your case was being mishandled. He's driving back now, should arrive around 8. Shanice, I need you to understand something. What's about to happen is going to get ugly. These officers didn't just fail to do their job. They created a paper trail of negligence. When the federal agents arrive, there's going to be consequences. Are you prepared for that? Shanice thought about Isaiah, about his smile, about the way he hugged her every morning before school and said, "Love you, Mama, have a good sleep." "Yes, Mom," she said, "I'm prepared." "Good, stay by your phone. The FBI will call you directly within 30 minutes. And Shanice, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Most people would have given up. You didn't." At 6:47 p.m., 2 Pennsylvania State Police vehicles pulled into the Millbrook Police Department parking lot. Shanice watched from her car as 4 state troopers walked into the building with the purposeful stride of people who weren't there to ask permission. Through the glass doors, she saw Sergeant Cunningham stand up from his desk, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. The lead trooper, a tall black man with sergeant stripes, approached Cunningham's desk and said something. Shanice couldn't hear the words, but she saw Cunningham's face go pale. One of the state troopers came outside and knocked on Shanice's window. "Mrs. Williams, I'm Sergeant Marcus Green with the Pennsylvania State Police. I understand your son Isaiah is missing. I need you to come inside and give me a complete statement. We're taking over this investigation." Shanice followed Sergeant Green inside with Kenya. The atmosphere had completely changed. The casual indifference was gone, replaced by focused urgency. Green led Shanice to a private office, not the waiting area, not the counter, but an actual office with a desk and chairs and a door that closed. "I need every detail," Green said, pulling out a notebook. "Start from the moment you arrived at the school." For the next 40 minutes, Shanice told him everything. Green took notes, asked clarifying questions, and treated her with the respect of someone whose complaint mattered. Mrs. Complaint mattered. "Williams," Green said when she finished, "I want to be honest with you. We're treating this as a critical missing child case. We're issuing an Amber Alert within the next 15 minutes. We're pulling security footage from the school and surrounding area. We're interviewing everyone who was at that school this afternoon, and we're going to find your son." Shanice allowed herself to cry for the first time since this began. At 7:34 p.m., 2 FBI agents walked through the doors. Special Agent Rebecca Martinez and Special Agent James Okonkwo, both from the Philadelphia field office, both specialists in child abduction cases. They introduced themselves to Shanice, then immediately began coordinating with the state police. Within minutes, they'd set up a command center in the police station's conference room, pulling in every resource available. Sergeant Cunningham stood in the corner of the main room, watching his casual Friday evening turn into a federal investigation. Officer Kemp had disappeared into the break room. Dispatcher Rhonda approached Shanice while the agents were setting up equipment. "I'm sorry," Rhonda said quietly. "I should have spoken up earlier. I knew Dale was wrong. I knew he should have taken this seriously. But she trailed off. "I'm sorry." "You spoke up when it mattered," Shanice said. "Thank you for that." Rhonda nodded. Then she said something that made Shanice's blood run cold. "There's something you should know. About 6 months ago, there was another case. A black teenage girl reported being followed by a man in a van. She came in scared, said the man tried to grab her near the high school. Dale took the report but never investigated, told her she was being dramatic. 2 weeks later, a girl from the next town over was assaulted by a man matching that description. Dale never connected the cases, never told anyone. The girl's family doesn't know their report could have prevented what happened." Shanice felt sick. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because what's about to happen to Dale, he deserves it, and I'm tired of being silent." At 8:02 p.m., 5 hours and 15 minutes after Isaiah disappeared, the FBI agents found the first lead. Special Agent Martinez called Shanice into the conference room. "Mrs. Williams, we pulled security footage from the school. We have an image of the man who signed out your son." She turned a laptop to face Shanice. The image was grainy, but clear enough. A white man, 40s, wearing a baseball cap and glasses, signing the school clipboard. "Do you recognize him?" Martinez asked. Shanice stared at the screen. "No, I've never seen him before. We're running facial recognition now. We're also pulling traffic cameras to track his vehicle. Mrs. Williams, I need to ask you something. Is there anyone at all who might have a reason to target you or your son?" Shanice started to say no. Then she stopped. "My husband," she said slowly. "Before he died, he worked construction. There was an incident at one of his job sites, a safety violation. Marcus reported it to OSHA because workers were being put at risk. The company owner, a man named Dale Pritchard, lost his contractor's license over it, lost his business. He blamed Marcus." "Did he threaten your husband?" Agent Okonkwo leaned forward. "He came to our house. This was about 4 years ago. Screamed at Marcus in our driveway that he'd make him pay for ruining his life. Marcus filed a restraining order. The man backed off after that. I haven't thought about him in years." Martinez and Okonkwo exchanged glances. "Mrs. Williams, what did Dale Pritchard look like?" 40s, white, thinning hair. He wore glasses. Martinez turned the laptop back toward herself and started typing rapidly. 30 seconds later, she pulled up a DMV photo. Dale Pritchard, same man from the school security footage. "We have a match," Martinez said into her phone. Dale Pritchard, age 46, registered address in Millbrook. "Run his record and get units to that location immediately. Treat as armed and dangerous." She turned to Shanice. "Mrs. Williams, we believe we know who has your son. Units are heading to his address now. I need you to stay here with Agent Okonkwo. I'm going with the tactical team." Shanice's heart was hammering. Is he going to hurt Isaiah? Please, tell me. "We're going to get your son back," Martinez said firmly. "That's what we do." At 8:41 p.m., 4 state police vehicles and 2 FBI units descended on a small house on the edge of Millbrook. Shanice waited in the police station conference room, Kenya asleep in her lap, Agent Okonkwo staying with her, his presence both comforting and terrifying, because it meant this was real, this was happening, her son was with a dangerous man. At 8:53 p.m., Agent Okonkwo's radio crackled. "Suspect in custody. Child is safe. Repeat, child is safe." Shanice's entire body went weak. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, could only cry. "Mrs. Williams," Okonkwo said gently, "Isaiah is safe. They're bringing him to the station now. He's going to be checked by paramedics, but initial report says he's physically unharmed." At 9:17 p.m., 6 hours and 30 minutes after he disappeared, Isaiah Williams walked through the doors of the Millbrook Police Department holding Special Agent Martinez's hand. "Mama!" Shanice ran to him, dropping to her knees, pulling him into her arms so tightly she was afraid she might hurt him, but unable to let go. "I'm here, baby. I'm here. You're safe. You're safe." Isaiah was crying. "Mama, I was so scared. The man said he was taking me to you, but then he locked me in a room and wouldn't let me leave." "Shh, baby, it's over. You're safe now." While paramedics examined Isaiah, who was cold, scared, and dehydrated, but otherwise unharmed, Special Agent Martinez briefed Shanice. "Dale Pritchard has been arrested and charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and making terroristic threats. He'll face federal charges. He's not going to hurt anyone again." "He told Isaiah he was taking him somewhere to make you pay," Martinez continued quietly. "He'd been watching your family for weeks, waiting for an opportunity. He knew your husband was deceased. He knew your routine. This was planned." Shanice felt rage and relief battling inside her. "If the police had listened to me when I first came in." "I know," Martinez said. "Believe me, I know." At 9:47 p.m., a man in his 60s wearing a police chief's uniform walked into the station. Chief Robert Morrison. He'd driven 2 hours from Harrisburg the moment Colonel Briggs called him. What happened next would change everything. Chief Robert Morrison was not a man who tolerated incompetence. He'd served in the Marines before becoming a police officer, had worked his way up through the ranks over 32 years, and had built the Millbrook Police Department's reputation on the principle that every citizen deserved equal protection. When he walked through the doors at 9:51 p.m. and saw federal agents running an investigation, out of his station, saw state police coordinating a child recovery operation, saw one of his sergeants standing in the corner looking like he wanted to disappear, Morrison knew exactly what had happened. Someone on his team had failed catastrophically. "Someone brief me," Morrison said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who expected immediate compliance. "Now." Special Agent Martinez stepped forward and provided a concise summary. "Missing child report filed at 4:23 p.m. Local officers dismissed it as non-urgent. Mother filed formal complaint at 5:52 p.m. State police intervened at 6:47 p.m. FBI activated at 7:34 p.m. Child recovered at 8:03 p.m. Suspect in custody." Morrison's jaw tightened with each sentence. "Who took the initial report?" he asked. Silence. "I asked the question." Sergeant Cunningham stepped forward, his face ashen. "Sir, I did. But in my assessment, Your assessment? Morrison's voice dropped to a deadly calm. Your assessment was that a missing 8-year-old child whose sign out from school was forged using a deceased man's signature wasn't urgent enough to investigate immediately? Sir, we received dozens of these reports. Most of them are custody disputes, or did you conduct any investigation at all before dismissing this case? Cunningham hesitated. Sir, it was end of shift and the report didn't meet the criteria for. Answer the question, Sergeant. Yes or no? Did you investigate? No, sir. Chief Morrison sat down in the conference room with the complaint form Shanice had filed, the initial missing person report, and the timeline of events provided by the state police. He read every word. Then he asked to see the station security footage from when Shanice first arrived. For 18 minutes, Morrison watched the recordings, watched Cunningham dismiss Shanice's report, watched him tell her to come back Monday, watched Shanice place $18 on the counter, watched Cunningham laugh. When the footage ended, Morrison sat perfectly still for 10 seconds. Then he stood up, walked out of the conference room, and called to Sergeant Cunningham and Officer Kemp. Both of you. Conference room. Now. Sergeant Cunningham, Morrison began, his voice cold and precise. In your 26 years of service, have you ever been trained on missing child protocols? Yes, sir. And does that training specify that any missing child report should be treated as urgent until proven otherwise? Yes, sir, but does it specify that officers should conduct immediate investigation, including contacting the location from which the child went missing? Sir, I use my judgment, your judgment. Morrison's voice rose for the first time. Your judgment was to laugh at a mother who was offering you every cent she had because she was desperate for help. Your judgment was to wait 3 days before taking action. Your judgment almost got a child killed. Cunningham said nothing. Morrison turned to Kemp. Officer Kemp, did you participate in mocking Mrs. Williams? Sir, yes or no? Yes, sir. Did you at any point suggest that the case should be investigated? No, sir. Morrison nodded slowly. Both of you are suspended without pay, effective immediately, pending an internal affairs investigation. You will surrender your weapons and badges before you leave this building. You will not speak to the press. You will not contact Mrs. Sective, Williams, or her family. You will cooperate fully with the investigation. If I find out you violated any of these directives, I will personally ensure you face criminal charges for obstruction of justice. Do you understand? Sir, this is... Cunningham started. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Get out of my sight. Chief Morrison approached Shanice, who was sitting in the waiting area with Isaiah and Kenya, both children now wrapped in blankets provided by the paramedics. Mrs. Williams, Morrison said, I'm Chief Robert Morrison. I owe you an apology that no words can adequately convey. What happened here tonight is inexcusable. Your son should never have been put at risk because my officers failed to do their jobs. I take full responsibility. Shanice looked at him, exhausted beyond words. Your apology doesn't change what happened. Your officers laughed at me. They treated me like I was wasting their time. My son was with a kidnapper for 6 hours because they decided I didn't matter. You're right, Morrison said simply, and I can't undo that. But I can promise you that there will be consequences. I've suspended both officers involved. There will be a full internal affairs investigation. If criminal charges are warranted, I will support them. And I'm implementing immediate changes to our missing person protocols to ensure this never happens again. Morrison pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. This is my personal cell phone number. If you need anything, and I mean anything, in the coming days, you call me directly, day or night. Shanice took the card, too tired to respond. Special Agent Martinez asked to speak with Shanice privately while Isaiah was being evaluated. By Child Protective Services, standard procedure for any child recovery case to ensure the home environment was safe. Mrs. Williams, I need to ask you something, Martinez said. How did you know to contact the FBI? How did you know to file a formal complaint? Most civilians in your situation wouldn't have known those procedures. Shanice was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I served in the army. Combat medic. 2 tours. When Marcus died, I had to leave. But I never forgot what I learned. You don't give up when the situation gets hard. You adapt. You find another route. You call for backup. Martinez nodded slowly. The Colonel, Patricia Briggs. She's the one who set all this in motion, isn't she? She made calls, Shanice confirmed. But I asked her to. I knew I couldn't fight this alone. I knew I needed help from people who had authority these officers couldn't ignore. That was smart. Most people would have just gone home and waited, trusting the system to work. I did trust the system, Shanice said quietly. I trusted it enough to know what it looks like when it's working and what it looks like when it's broken. What I saw in this building was broken, so I fixed it. While Shanice was speaking with Agent Martinez, Dispatcher Rhonda was giving a statement to an internal affairs investigator from the state police. She detailed not just tonight's incident, but 6 months of concerns she'd had about Sergeant Cunningham's handling of cases involving black civilians, particularly women. The teenage girl who'd reported being followed, dismissed. A domestic violence call where Cunningham told the woman to work it out with her husband. No arrest made, though visible injuries were documented. A traffic stop where Cunningham made racially charged comments about a driver's attitude problem. I should have reported this earlier, Rhonda said, tears in her eyes. I was afraid of retaliation, afraid of being labeled a troublemaker. But watching that woman beg for help tonight, watching him laugh at her, I can't live with being silent anymore. The investigator made careful notes. Miss Thomas, are you aware of any other officers who witnessed these incidents? Yes, Rhonda said. Officer Martinez, different Martinez, not the FBI agent, one of our patrol officers. She's mentioned concerns to me privately. Officer Chen too. They've seen things but didn't know how to report it without it coming back on them. The pattern was becoming clear. This wasn't an isolated incident, it was a systemic problem. At 10:47 p.m., as Shanice was preparing to take Isaiah and Kenya home, Chief Morrison's phone rang. He answered, listened for 30 seconds, and his face went pale. When? He asked. How many? Another pause. Jesus Christ. He hung up and immediately called Special Agent Martinez over. We have a problem, Morrison said quietly, but Shanice was close enough to hear. That was the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit. When they searched Dale Pritchard's house, they found something. Martinez's expression darkened. What? A list. 12 names, all children of parents who Pritchard blamed for his business failure. Your son was number 7, Mrs. Williams. The room went absolutely silent. He'd been planning this for 4 years, Morrison continued, his voice shaking slightly. Since your husband filed that OSHA complaint, he lost everything. His business, his house, his wife left him. And he spent 4 years making a list of people to target. He'd already been watching 3 of the other families. Shanice felt her blood turn to ice. You're saying he was going to hurt more children? We don't know what he was planning, Martinez said carefully. But we know he had detailed information on 12 families, addresses, schedules, children's school information. Mrs. Williams, by reporting this tonight, by pushing until someone listened. You didn't just save your son. You potentially saved 11 other children from being targeted. Sergeant Cunningham, who was cleaning out his desk in preparation for his suspension, overheard this conversation. He walked to the conference room doorway. "Mrs. Williams," he said, his voice hoarse. I need to say something." Chief Morrison started to intervene. "Cunningham, you're suspended. You don't speak to..." "Chief, please, I need her to hear this." Shanice turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "I was wrong," Cunningham said. "I was wrong about everything. I judged you the moment you walked in that door. I saw a black woman. I saw someone I thought was probably exaggerating, probably involved in some domestic situation, probably taking up my time with something that wasn't my problem. I didn't see you as a mother. I didn't see your son as a child who needed help. I saw you as an inconvenience. And because of that, your son was in danger for 6 extra hours. And 11 other families are at risk because I didn't do my job. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did. And I'm going to have to live with that for the rest of my life." Shanice looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised everyone in the room. "Sergeant Cunningham, I don't forgive you. But I hope you learn from this. I hope you understand that every person who walks through that door is someone's child, someone's parent, someone who matters. And when you treat people like they're disposable, you don't just hurt them. You hurt everyone they could have helped, everyone they could have saved if you'd just done your job." She picked up Kenya, took Isaiah's hand, and walked toward the door. "Mrs. Williams," Chief Morrison called after her, "we're going to need you to come back tomorrow for additional statements. And I want you to know we're going to make this right, whatever you need. Legal support for pressing civil charges against Pritchard, counseling for Isaiah, anything." Shanice paused at the door. "What I need, Chief Morrison, is for this to never happen to another mother. Can you give me that?" As Shanice was loading her children into the car, Special Agent Martinez walked out to the parking lot. "Mrs. Williams, one more thing. We found something else in Pritchard's house, a journal. He'd been documenting his surveillance of your family. And in it, he wrote something I think you need to know." Martinez showed Shanice a photograph of a journal entry. "The woman works nights, leaves kids with neighbor, drives old car, barely surviving. But she keeps going. She's strong. That's why this will hurt her the most, because she thinks she can protect them. She can't." Shanice stared at the words, feeling sick. "Mrs. Williams," Martinez said quietly, "he chose you because he saw your strength and wanted to break it. He wanted to prove that hard work and love weren't enough, that the system wouldn't protect you." Martinez closed the journal photo. "But here's what he didn't understand. You didn't break, you fought. And you won. Not because the system protected you. It failed you spectacularly. You won because you refused to accept that failure as final. You found another way. You called for backup. You used every resource you had, including $18 and a phone number you'd kept for 7 years just in case. You saved your son, and you probably saved 11 other children. Not because you had power or money or privilege, because you refused to give up." Shanice nodded, unable to speak. "That's the kind of mother, the kind of person who changes systems," Martinez said. "I hope you know that." What Shanice didn't know, what she wouldn't learn until 2 weeks later, was that her case had already been escalated to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. That Sergeant Cunningham and Officer Kemp would both face federal civil rights violation charges, in addition to losing their jobs. that Chief Morrison would testify before a state legislative committee about the need for mandatory missing child response protocols, that 11 other families would be notified and protected because of what Shanice had done, and that the $18 she'd placed on that counter, the money Cunningham had mocked, would become evidence in a federal civil rights trial. But on that Friday night in February, all Shanice knew was that her son was safe, her baby girl was asleep in the back seat, and she had survived something that was designed to break her. She started her car, the heater still didn't work, but that would be a problem for another day, and drove home. Tomorrow she would rest, she would hold her children, she would begin the process of healing. But tonight she had won. 1 week after Isaiah's rescue, the story broke statewide. 2 Millbrook police officers have been suspended and are facing federal civil rights violation charges after their mishandling of a missing child case nearly resulted in tragedy. Sergeant Dale Cunningham and Officer Brian Kemp allegedly dismissed a mother's report that her 8-year-old son had been kidnapped, telling her to return Monday 3 days later to follow up. The news coverage was relentless. Video footage of Chief Morrison's press conference played on every station. What happened in our department last week represents a fundamental failure of our duty to protect and serve. 2 of my officers allowed their personal biases to override their professional responsibility. As a result, a child was in danger for hours longer than necessary. This is unacceptable, and there will be consequences. Dale Pritchard, the kidnapper, was charged with 12 counts of stalking, 1 count of kidnapping and making terroristic threats. Prosecutors were seeking federal charges as well. He would spend decades in prison. The Millbrook community rallied around Shanice. A GoFundMe created by Mrs. Chen raised $87,000 for her family, enough to pay off Marcus's medical debt, fix her car, and provide a financial cushion for the first time in years. But more importantly, Shanice's case sparked a broader conversation. At a community meeting held at the local Baptist church, 17 other mothers stood up to share their experiences of being dismissed, mocked, or ignored by Millbrook police when they reported crimes or asked for help. The pattern was undeniable. Black women, Latina women, poor women, their concerns had been systematically minimized. "We thought it was just us," one mother said, tears streaming down her face. "We thought we were crazy or overreacting or somehow doing something wrong. But it wasn't us, it was them." Chief Morrison attended that meeting. He listened to every story, and he took notes. "I'm not going to make excuses," he told the assembled community. "What you've described represents systemic failure. My department failed you. I failed you by not seeing these patterns earlier. But I'm committed to change, real change, and I'm asking for your help to make it happen." 2 weeks after the worst night of her life, Shanice sat in her living room with Isaiah and Kenya, watching them play with new toys donated by the community. Isaiah had nightmares for the first week. He'd wake up crying, thinking he was still locked in that room. Shanice would hold him until he fell back asleep, singing the same lullabies she'd sung when he was a baby. "Mama," Isaiah said one evening as she was tucking him in, "are you okay?" Shanice was surprised by the question. "Of course, baby. Why do you ask?" "Because you saved me, but I heard you tell Mrs. Ayer, Chen, that you were scared too. I don't want you to be scared anymore." Shanice smoothed his hair back. "I'm not scared anymore because you're home. You're safe. That's all that matters. The police officers who didn't help you, they got in trouble, right?" "Yes, baby." "Good," Isaiah said with the fierce certainty of an 8-year-old sense of justice. "They should have helped you. You're the best mama in the world." Shanice held him close, thinking about $18, a 7-year-old phone number, and the thin line between tragedy and salvation. When Shanice returned to work at the hospital, her co-workers surprised her with a small celebration in the break room. They decorated with balloons and made her favorite cake. "We're so glad you and Isaiah are okay," one of the other CNAs said, hugging her. "When we heard what happened, we couldn't believe it." But what touched Shanice most was a card signed by 17 patients she'd cared for over the years. One of them, an elderly veteran she'd taken care of during his cancer treatment, had written, "You took care of me when I had no one. You treated me with dignity when others looked away. I'm so grateful someone finally took care of you the way you take care of others. You deserve every good thing." Shanice taped the card to her locker, where she'd see it every shift. 3 months after Isaiah's rescue, Chief Morrison testified before the Pennsylvania State Legislature's Judiciary Committee in support of new mandatory missing child response protocols. "In my 32 years in law enforcement," Morrison told the committee, "I've learned that our procedures are only as good as our commitment to following them. On February 14th, my department had excellent protocols in place. But 2 of my officers chose not to follow them. They chose to substitute their judgment, their biased, flawed judgment, for established procedures designed to save lives. The bill before you today would make it a criminal offense for law enforcement to delay missing child investigations beyond 1 hour without documented cause. It would require immediate supervisor notification. It would mandate annual training on implicit bias and vulnerable populations. And it would create a statewide database to track patterns of dismissed reports." The bill passed unanimously. It became known informally as Isaiah's Law. In the first year after its implementation, 17 child abduction cases in Pennsylvania were solved within 4 hours of reporting cases that previously might have been delayed. Special Agent Rebecca Martinez used Shanice's case in her training sessions at Quantico. This case represents everything that can go wrong when law enforcement fails to take complainants seriously, she told a room full of new agents. But it also represents everything that can go right when someone refuses to accept injustice as inevitable. Shanice Williams had every reason to give up. She was poor, she was exhausted, she was marginalized by the very people who should have protected her. But she didn't give up. She used her military training, her network, her resources, even her last $18 to fight for her child. The lesson here isn't just about better procedures, though we need those. It's about seeing every person who comes to us for help as someone who matters, because they do. And sometimes the person you dismiss as powerless is the one who has the strength to change everything. 1 year after the worst night of her life, Shanice Williams stood in front of a classroom at the Pennsylvania State Police Academy. Chief Morrison had asked her to speak to new recruits about her experience. She hesitated. Talking about that night was still painful, but ultimately agreed. "My name is Shanice Williams," she began. "A year ago, I walked into a police station with my last $18 and asked for help, and I was laughed at." She looked out at the young faces staring back at her, faces of every color, background, and experience. "I'm not here to tell you all police officers are bad. I'm not here to tell you the system can't work, because I met officers that night, state police, FBI agents, even the chief of the department that failed me, who did their jobs with honor and compassion, who treated me like I mattered, who saved my son. I'm here to tell you that you have more power than you realize. When someone comes to you for help, you hold their life in your hands, their trust, their safety, and the choice you make in that moment, to help or to dismiss, to see them as human or to see them as an inconvenience. That choice echoes. My son is alive because eventually someone listened, but he wouldn't have needed to be rescued if someone had listened the first time. That's what I need you to remember, not the rescue, the first moment, the moment when you decide, does this person matter? Because they do. Every single one of them matters. In Shanice's apartment, in a simple frame on the living room wall, were the same $18 she'd placed on Sergeant Cunningham's desk that night. She'd kept them, not as a reminder of the mockery, but as a reminder of her worth. "Mama," Kenya asked one day, "why do you keep that money on the wall?" "Because, baby," Shanice said, "that money represents everything I had. And I was willing to give everything I had to save your brother. That's what love looks like. That's what fighting for what matters looks like." "But you didn't have to give it away," Isaiah pointed out. "They found me anyway." "That's true," Shanice agreed. "But I didn't know that when I put that money on the counter. All I knew was that I had to try. I had to give everything, even when it seemed like it wouldn't be enough." She looked at her children, healthy and safe and hers. Sometimes $18 is everything, and sometimes everything is enough. This story reminds us that your worth isn't measured by your bank account, your zip code, or whether people in power take you seriously. Your worth is measured by what you do when everything is stacked against you, when the people who should help you won't, when your resources are gone and all you have left is your voice and your refusal to be silent. Shanice Williams didn't have money. She didn't have connections in high places. She didn't have political power. But she had something more valuable. She had the courage to demand justice when justice was denied. She had the intelligence to find another way when the first way was blocked. She had the strength to keep fighting when fighting seemed pointless. And because of that, her son came home. 11 other children were protected. 2 officers who failed their duty faced consequences. A system that was broken began to be repaired. You don't need wealth to fight injustice. You don't need power to refuse to be powerless. You need conviction. You need courage. You need the understanding that your life and the lives of those you love have value that no one can take away. Shanice Williams proved that $18 and a phone number can change the world, not because the money mattered, but because her refusal to give up mattered. So here's the question this story leaves you with. What would you do with your last $18? Would you spend it on something that only serves you? Or would you use it to fight for someone who depends on you, even when the odds say you'll lose? More importantly, what will you do when your moment comes? When someone asks you for help, will you see their humanity, or will you see an inconvenience? Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the one with the badge or the authority. Sometimes it's the mother with $18 and everything to lose. Choose to be someone who listens. Choose to be someone who helps. Choose to see every person who asks for your help as someone who matters. Because they do. They always do. This story is a fictional dramatization inspired by real events of courage, justice, and the power of human dignity. While the characters and specific events are works of narrative, the themes, police misconduct, systemic bias against marginalized communities, and the courage of ordinary people who refuse to be silenced reflect realities that play out every day across our country. In a world that often dismisses the vulnerable, choose to be like Shanice Williams. Choose courage. Choose justice. Choose to listen. Because sometimes the person asking for your help has already given everything they have. And sometimes everything is exactly enough.